Good evening and welcome to QI, where tonight's theme is killers, and our keen technologists, look it up, are the menacing Jason Manford, the merciless Sandy Toksvig, the murderous Trevor Noah, and the mostly harmless Alan Davies. So, let's hear their homicidal death knells. Sandy goes... just once. Jason goes... Trevor goes... and Alan goes...
Killing me softly. Killing me softly.
Well, it was common in the Second World War, death by flak. So, name the world's second best hunter.
I mean, human beings must be the first, surely. We get rid of entire species without any trouble at all.
Which one is that? Do you recognise him?
Hemingway.
Hemingway, that's Hemingway, who was mad on hunting. And man is indeed the most efficient. We wipe out whole species.
Yes. So who's second?
Sharks.
Killer whale.
I would skip...
Killer whale is the right answer. Very good.
He got it in his name. That's how successful he is. He even called himself a killer.
He's even got the word killer in his name, you're right. And the point about the killer whale is, firstly, that they're misnamed, that it was the Spanish name for them, which we misinterpreted as killer whale. They're actually whale killers. They kill whales.
Oh.
I've seen a documentary where they pursued a mother and a baby...
Grey whale.
for hundreds of miles.
Up the coast of California, probably.
2 or 3 of them. And eventually they get too tired to fend them off, and then they eat the baby whale.
I know, the point is they act in packs. And they're not whales.
They're people.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell almost from the arcing leap that he's making?
Dolphins.
It's a dolphin. They're
Dolphin.
dolphins.
Yeah.
They're dolphins that really, really are very intelligent, and they have an amazing way of attacking their prey. And apart from whales, they're particularly fond of a juicy...
Seals, they eat.
Yeah, they love their seals. But what's so impressive is the technique they use, and
Well,
also how
they beach themselves, don't they? They actually...
That's one way, is they actually get them on land, yeah. But there's an even more impressive way, which is they try and tilt the little ice flow that the seals will be on.
Knock them off.
Knock them off. And if the ice flow's too big, they line up in a row with a leader who sort of blows a signal. The young ones watch, and they sort of check that the young ones are watching, so they learn the technique. And then line abreast, they charge the ice flow, creating a bow wave, which goes over the ice flow, so the seal falls off. We can show you that. But here they are. There's the line of them, and there's the wave is going to go right over the... Woof! Oh. Knock the poor thing off. Oh. But it's very cunning.
And sad.
And sad, it's true.
Clever.
But damn, it's clever. Another smart move that was observed in 2005 by... What's the other word for a killer whale? I'm sure you know.
Orca.
Yeah, a group was found, or at least a single orca was seen, regurgitating into the sea. And herrings then flocked down to eat the puke. And, sorry, did I say herrings? I meant herring gulls.
You know, and I come from the land of the herring, and I'd lost myself in this story.
Yeah, these birds swooped down onto the puke and started to eat it, and it then ate the birds. So it was a clever strategy.
Bait.
Yeah, it was bait. It created its own bait by throwing up. And then other orcas were seen to imitate it. And it had never been observed before, and that's what's so dolphin-like about them. They learn new behaviours and transmit them.
Do you think he discovered it by accident? He'd had a bit of a night on the sauce and...
Yes, probably.
Oh, hello, the gulls are coming.
Almost certainly, that's
Probably
quite
eating
right.
a dodgy prawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the worst things about being sea life.
Yes.
It's constantly eating seafood all the time.
You don't have a vegetarian option. And also, as you rightly said, they do attack on land. That's to say, they come precariously close to beaching themselves.
They're always in disguise, then, aren't they? They wear hats and scarves.
They look like lifeguards.
Two of them stand on each other's shoulders with a long
We can
coat.
see them doing it, actually. We've got a little bit of footage of the attack of the orca on the poor old... the seals think we're safe now. Oh, no. Oh. But oh. Well, it's in there somewhere. Oh, there we go.
You should voice over more wildlife documentaries.
That one's going to work. Bizarrely enough, I did voice over one called Ocean Giants, which was about dolphins and whales. Yeah, precisely. But fortunately, it wasn't quite such a vague script.
I did a show for BBC called Walk on the Wild Side.
Oh, yes, I did
and
one
you
of those.
you played a panda, I think, that was overeating or something. And we also had Sir Tom Jones do one. And everyone, like yourself, we just sent them the script, and, you know, it takes 2 minutes just to record it and send it back in. And Tom Jones, he just got a phone call one day in the studio, and he said, I've been sent this script, so you want me to play a lion? I was like, yeah, that's right. He went, I don't really like lions. I was like, what? And I said, well, we're recording tomorrow. I said, is there any animal you prefer? He went, I'm a big fan of the penguin. And had like 24 hours to write a penguin sketch. And,
Did it sing, Penguin? Did you get it to sing?
no, it was a
Didn't
penguin.
finish with it.
Well, there you are, killer whales. They're not whales, but they are killers. Now, how can a bottle of whiskey save your life? Oh,
Well, in a fight, I'm assuming.
Is it the bottle or the contents?
It's the contents. Ingestion of whiskey.
Well, if you suffer trauma and you've got ethanol in your system, presumably you're going to be better off. Presumably...
Shut up! How did you know that?
Because I've had a lot of trauma while drunk.
You're absolutely right. There was a documented case where it was literally a bottle of whiskey. There was a New Zealand chef called Duthie who went on a vodka binge and he went blind. He was literally blind drunk. They think it was because he was on diabetic medication and that this basically turned it all into formaldehyde, which can cause blindness, as well as preserving you very nicely. And the usual thing is to put someone on an ethanol drip. They didn't have any medical ethanol in this particular hospital, but they did have an offie, so they went and got a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label, and they put him on a drip, and 5 days later he woke up with sight fully restored.
Wow.
On a whiskey drip.
It was a whiskey drip, literally a bottle of whiskey.
Sounds like a good name for a pub, doesn't it?
I think it's a fact, even if you have an accident or a serious injury and you're drunk at the time, you're probably more likely to recover than if you are...
Shut up again!
Isn't that
Do you
because
just
of the-
sneak into my dressing rooms and look at my cards?
I know this. I wrote a play, which is a lot about soldiers and how they deal with things. And some of the soldiers who were intoxicated at the time of the battle did better. They recovered better.
Well, you're absolutely right. Did you know this?
I always knew about the ragdoll effect. If you have the alcohol, and then if you fall or if you're in a car accident, because you don't brace, then
Yes.
it's the same as a baby. If you drop babies, they're fine. They just... So if you're drunk, that's why you recover quicker, because you just don't brace, and then it just goes through you.
Then you'll probably end up in more situations where you're likely to get hurt.
That is
You
true.
get
because-
other injuries. You get other DRIs, don't you? Drink-related injuries.
DRIs. I like the fact you know that. That's a bit I've got Mr. Davis presenting with a DRI again.
My friend had a great DRI where he managed to get home against all odds and then fell asleep against the radiator. A nasty burn on his arm he had.
There was like a practical joke that kids did when I was growing up, which was to fill a ball, a football, up with cement, for example, you know, from somebody's garden.
Oh, wow.
You fill a football and leave it outside a pub, and drunk men cannot resist. Jesus! They just can't resist a football. I've got this one, Dave! It's a hell of a practical joke,
You
but
put a
it's...
goalpost on the wall.
Well, this is extraordinary. All I have to do is fill in the dots here. It was Lee Friedman of the University of Illinois at Chicago who spent 14 years examining this effect. He analysed the blood alcohol of 190,000 trauma patients. He found that with the exception of burns, death rates from all types of traumatic injury fell as blood alcohol levels rose. Just extraordinary, isn't it?
190,000 seems like an enormous
It's a big
number of-
cohort, as they would say, isn't it? Exactly, which makes it quite a respected study. Amongst the extremely drunk, mortality rates were cut by nearly 50%. Gunshot and stab victims, however, showed the greatest benefit, which wouldn't be the ragdoll effect, I don't suppose.
There's some kind of anaesthetic element to it.
There is the anaesthetic element as well, which I suppose makes you behave less dramatically in a way
Yes,
that
you do.
increases blood flow.
I'm bleeding, you just
it's
think,
sort of-
You think, oh, look at that.
Too short! I better just have him short. I have to go to the hospital. It's so busy on a weekend.
One more Jaeger bomb couldn't do anything.
What bridges are going to eat? Come on, let's go to the hospital. They've got a bar there. Have a bar there.
Hopsital.
I'm fine. I've been shot. I'm fine.
Amongst drivers, however, you were 2 to 4 times more likely to die in a car crash, or of a car crash, as it were, involved in a car crash. But I think you've covered everything quite brilliantly. There's the ragdoll effect, and there seems to be an improvement in recovery from trauma. So if you think you're going to get shot or stabbed, get drunk first. Now, you use a silver bullet for...
Vampires.
You could try it on a vampire, don't think it'd do any good. Got to be a werewolf.
All silver does. All the silver.
Is silver good for vampires?
Yeah, silver's good for vampires.
Are these real now?
Very knowledgeable about this.
The reality of vampire. Because part of the myth was that the silver came from the coins that Judas got. You remember?
Yes, 30 pieces.
The first vampire came from Judas when he hung himself after Jesus.
Did he turn into a vampire?
Well, they said Judas became the first vampire, and then the silver burns them because that's what they gave Judas to
silver
betray. He got the silver pieces, so that's why it's silver for all of them. But you want a bullet for a wolf because they fast. Vampires, just the gun is useless. So.
Well, that's covered the vampire side of the question quite perfectly. But a square bullet, on the other hand, these don't need to be silver. Against whom would...
I think this is I think this is a very old gun, and I think it's something politically incorrect. Is that right?
You've been... I'm going to test my cards for your DNA
It's,
and
it's
fingerprints.
I'm slightly distracted because that so looks like a woman I went out with, but... Every morning I'd say the word orthodontist.
I don't think any man would ask for oral sex from that particular weapon. I think that would be a risk.
Yeah.
You're right, it was designed in the early part of the 18th century, back
I
in
think it was to kill
1718.
Turks, but more specifically Muslims, I think. And the square bullet was to, I think, show them how great Christianity was. I think that was the kind of plan behind the square bullet. It was a specific gun.
It was called the Puckle gun.
Puckle gun, James Puckle.
James Puckle invented it in 1718, and his idea was that you used the round bullets for Christians, and the square bullets were for the Ottoman Turks.
That's a good idea, the square bullet, because if you drop one, it won't roll away.
There is, however, a bad side to it. You can't rifle a square bullet, and it's the rifling that gives it accuracy through the air.
Oh, so they're a bit
it
rubbish, the
makes
square
it
bullets.
spin and go fast. Yeah, it would just go wobble, 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 wobble.
So if you were a Turk or a Muslim, you'd be encouraging the square
Actually,
bullet.
you would.
I think you should definitely use the square ones, or not.
Exactly. It was supposed to show the benefits of Christianity. In fact, it showed the further deficiency of James Puckle's ideas of aerodynamics and rifling.
You might hit a Christian.
He might accidentally hit a Christian. It's not really right to call it the first machine gun, but it was 3 times faster to load and fire than the current musket. It was 9 rounds a minute, which wasn't bad for 1718.
It's interesting because I guess technically the first bulletproof vests were created by the Zulus when they were fighting the British. Because Shaka discovered that if you dip your leather shield in water before you go into battle, then the pellets couldn't penetrate.
Is it really? Was that... It
Yeah,
hardened the leather that much?
and that's how the Zulus could kill so many. Because what would happen is they only needed 1 bullet, and then they would advance so quickly that then they would kill 5 or 6 British people before they could reload.
Do you have Zulu blood in you?
I do.
Oh, you're
I
from
guess
that part?
yes, because I mean Xhosa people are of the
you're
Zulus.
Xhosa. Oh, do that
Yes,
again. I
I'm
love
half
that.
Xhosa.
Oh, do it again.
So,
I
Xhosa,
love
Xhosa.
that.
I can't do that.
I love that.
It's given as an exclamation mark, isn't it?
No, that's
that
the X. So there's the 3 clicks. There's the X, which is the, and then there's the Q, and then there's the C, which is. So those are the 3 different. So that's the.
You've seduced me.
Oh, thank you.
Not that you wanted to, I'm sure.
Who was that wonderful... Was it Miriam Makeba? Who's
Yes,
that?
the click song.
Yeah.
Igqirha le ndlela ngugqotshwane. Yeah, that's the song. Yeah, so the Xhosas were technically they were basically pacifists of the Zulus. They were they were chased out. They separated from the tribe, so they weren't as like the Zulus were really our proud. In terms of military, they are our pride and joy. They are.
But the Assagais.
Everything they did was revolutionary. Just like the first they were the first ones with the shortened spear. So Shaka invented a spear that was quicker to stab with and not as cumbersome to
like
to
a
lug
javelin,
around. Yes.
yeah.
Because the spear hadn't really been changed over all those years, and
So he
changed
adapted.
that. He changed everything. He was one of the best military.
Yeah.
You guys, if it wasn't for the guns, you guys wouldn't be here.
I know, we wouldn't have.
Just do that bit of singing again. Just do that bit of singing again.
Oh, Igqirha le ndlela ngugqotshwane. That's the
See,
song.
you don't know me well, Trevor, but I'm on the turn, I'm telling you.
You only got Jason and Alan left to seduce, Trevor. I have to say.
He's a cracking fella.
We're all... Well, there you go. That's your man Puckle. And again, well done, Sandy. Knowledge, just amazing. Now, here's a killer question for you, Alan. We're both actors. Why are we so grotesquely overpaid?
Market forces. We're not in charge of the distribution of wealth.
Any excuse we can think of. Well, what profession within the film industry might think that they're responsible entirely for the way an actor conveys...
Screenwriters?
The screenwriter certainly has a lot, as far as the story is concerned, but they can't control, as it were, what an audience reads into an actor's eyes.
So the
Cameraman?
The editor.
In a way, the editor, yeah. And in 1919, when cinema was being born, there was a filmmaker called Lev Kuleshov, and he proposed putting together a film in which you saw an actor looking at things, and you noticed that the audience read into the actor different emotions according to what they're looking at.
So it's the idea that they're looking, we think, oh, they're looking melancholy because they're looking at something.
Or they're looking hungry.
Or they're looking hungry. Yeah,
exactly.
The actor's actually not changed.
It's exactly the same shot as the actor.
Oh,
and this
That's the trick of acting. All actors know that.
yes, is not to act.
If in doubt, don't do anything at all.
And directors will tell you. Milos Forman famously shouts, "Stop acting! Somebody is acting here!"
There's a famous Bogart one, and at the end he looks down on some carnage, and everyone was very impressed by the emotions he portrayed. But the shot had been done much later, and the camera went down low, stood up on a balcony, and the director said, "Look bored."
Yes. I know, it works like that.
They cut it in.
It's extraordinary how that is. It's the effect, it's the timing of the story, it's what the actor seems to be looking at, and it's the audience that does the work. They read the emotion into the face. Oh, we've actually cut our own together. So you can see here What's this emotion?
Confusion.
Oh, he's looking hard at something. Can you believe it's true? Oh no, Arsenal have lost again. What a beautiful bike. There you are. Proof positive as if it were needed. Anyway, thanks to the Kuleshov effect, good acting, maybe just good editing. Now, Alan, be honest, have you ever enjoyed a shower in chocolate sauce?
Is this a euphemism?
It emphatically is not. And everybody's to put away those thoughts.
No, I've put my hand on a chocolate
Oh.
fountain.
We are almost certain you have enjoyed a shower in chocolate sauce.
Oh.
Oh, hello.
I was so drunk, Sandy.
I suspect that most of you have, not necessarily all of you.
It sounds a niche area of interest, certainly.
Well, let's think of films that have got showers in them. And
Psycho.
Yeah.
that's it. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was a good film.
Yeah. And the shower scene is the pivotal
no.
scene.
Oh,
I think
because
I know
it's
what
black
you're
and
gonna
white.
say.
It's
That's
black and
right,
white.
The
yeah.
water doesn't read on film.
The water
no, it's
does.
the blood. The blood
blood.
is...
It
Yeah.
was a chocolate sauce.
Bosco
Yeah, that's
chocolate.
right.
Bosco's chocolate sauce was used for the blood. And actually, talking as we were earlier of editing, one of the reasons it is the most famous scene possibly that Hitchcock directed, and one of the most famous scenes in all cinema, is that it contains 77 different camera angles and 50 cuts and lasts only 3 minutes. And I've done this, I've sat there counting the number of cuts in 3 minutes.
Wow, you must get out, Stephen, really.
Because films
Sitting
are...
next to you at the cinema, like,
No, not in the cinema.
who's more Rain Man with you?
50 cuts there! Stop the clock!
When I was a kid in the States, we used to have ice cream with Bosco chocolate sauce on it.
It's
And you
it is-
couldn't serve it without going, It was
Oh, so you all
noise.
knew? Yeah,
so it was
that's
the-
right. Have you seen Psycho?
I have not, no.
You see, your generation, you just don't go for the
it's
classics.
great.
Because it's black and white, you go...
I'm waiting for it to come out on Twitter and then I'll...
Exactly.
The sound of the stabbing, I think it was a knife in a melon.
Absolutely right. And actually, Hitchcock first wanted the scene to be just, as they say, effects. In other words, the sound of the water, the sound of the shower curtain being torn, and the sound of the knife going into the cassava melon. But his favourite composer, who composed a lot of his films, Bernard Herrmann, wrote this astounding score with these jagged things and begged him to listen to the version with it. And Hitchcock said, "You're right," and actually doubled his pay on the movie.
Hitchcock sounds like Jeremy from Top Gear. Sounds exactly like that.
You're right. Right. Yes. Just 2 seconds in and you're nursing a semi. Everybody was against him making the film. He'd just made North by Northwest, one of his most lavish, colourful, beautiful, extraordinary thrillers, and he wanted to be known for a different kind of film because he was always experimenting, always trying different things.
That film is so clever, Psycho, because you're with Janet Leigh all the way from the beginning. She hatches this plan, she's got this money, she's on the
Steals 40
run.
grand.
You can't wait to see what's going to happen. And then she's gone halfway through the film.
Oh, thanks for
What-
spoiling it. Thank you.
I don't feel I have, really.
No, we didn't.
Given the
You might have
picture of her
guessed.
being murdered in the shower.
Do you remember the last shot of the
pretty
shower
illegal.
scene? Just to get really nerdy.
What is it? Isn't it the eye and the...
That's right. Her head's sideways down. It's all the shots are... There's no long shots, all mid-shots and mostly close-ups. And he was so concerned to get it right that there just wasn't time for her to get accustomed to these contact lenses that would give her dilated pupils, which freshly stabbed people have, apparently. And so that was the one inaccuracy he was rather annoyed with. But no one wanted to make the film. Paramount said no, they wouldn't make it. He said, all right, then I'll make it in black and white to be cheaper. And they said, no, it's not. He said, well, I'll use my TV crew. He used a TV crew to make it, not a film crew. And one of the most successful movies of all time. It was nominated for Best Picture, Oscar, you know, and...
It's
marvellous.
worth seeing, Trevor, but not with Stephen. Just
No.
saying.
Sorry.
Sandy will take you.
Yeah, I did. As
Do you
long-
know, this evening has changed my life.
Now, describe the curriculum at the British Hate Training Academy. Oh, dear. Like
Watching Jeremy Kyle all day and all night.
Yeah, that would
That would be good hate training.
It would, actually, wouldn't it?
I would imagine that maybe it's very difficult to get soldiers to
Kill.
hate anybody.
Yeah.
I would imagine maybe there was some scheme to
We
try
had
and get
hate schools. In the Second World War, we had hate schools.
Has there ever been a more pointless padlock in the world?
You're not getting my shirts! Back off! It's a pretty astonishing look, isn't it? But no, Sandy, you're right. There were hate schools. These medals are sticking into my chest! Oh, God! All of them are pinning me in the chest! My hat is too small! Get me a new hat!
What do you suppose the chances are of twins getting the same number of medals?
It's a good point.
Do you know, I've gone deaf in my left ear.
Back to the serious and terrible fact,
Yeah.
is that in order, supposedly, to encourage British troops of the Second World War, we put them into rooms and showed them appalling atrocities. Rotting corpses, starving people. They were then taken to slaughterhouses where they watched sheep being killed and they were smeared with their blood.
This
and
was common, though, wasn't it? Because they didn't they say to the Viet Cong that the US Marines ate babies? That kind
Oh,
of...
it was certainly true that this black propaganda was given out. You know, in the First World War, we had Germans raped nuns and all that. But this was actually being made to witness really awful things in order to get your blood up, was the idea. But when the papers and the public found out, there was an absolute uproar. No less a figure than the Bishop of St Albans said the attempt to inculcate hatred in the fighting forces and civilians is doing the devil's work. And General Sir Bernard Paget, who was Commander-in-Chief of the Home Forces, he agreed. He said that hate was foreign to British temperament. And we hate it.
But it is a very serious issue. I think it was after the Second World War. They estimated only between 15 and 20% of anybody in any armed force had ever fired their gun.
Yeah.
Because mostly people don't want to, and if they do fire their gun, they tend to try and miss.
Yes. And all of us know stories of people who've survived wars, and the one thing that absolutely tears them up is the fact that they've killed someone.
And the
they
closer you
live
are
with
to
them.
the actual kill, in other words, if you
Absolutely.
kill somebody with a bayonet rather than you shoot them at a distance, the more likely you are to suffer trauma.
The more
They
trauma.
very famously said the most gentlemanly fighters in the wars were the Air Forces, because they almost had an unspoken rule that they wouldn't shoot a plane that's already going down. And you wouldn't shoot a guy in a parachute either. You would, he's
definitely,
down,
that was-
he's out, so you
no,
wouldn't...
Never do that.
So that
and if it
was,
was a good fight and you respected them and they were going down, they would do a little wingtip salute as they flew away from them, which is just...
Yeah, that'd be like, oh, that's nice.
Anyway, the fact is why they stopped them, not because of public outrage, because it didn't work. The effect it had on soldiers was it depressed them.
It's interesting because the Germans, instead of, I guess, showing videos of the opposing side to get the soldiers desensitized, they famously made them kill their dogs. I don't know if you remember, not remember it like you were there, but I mean, if you remember the stories where they would say they would have a dog, a puppy to raise their whole lives, and then when they graduated from training, then the last assignment was to kill the dog, which you obviously have grown
SS
to.
training, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was the SS.
That must be absolutely, it's unspeakably brutal to ask someone to shoot a puppy or a dog. Anyway, which is most dangerous? 1,000 bananas,
Oh.
half a litre of wine, 1.4 cigarettes, or 2 days in New York?
You could fall on quite a lot of those banana peels.
You
Caught spiders inside. That's
Yes, you could have a
absolutely-
tarantula inside, yeah.
But they're all quite dangerous, I suppose.
They're all, in fact, we know that they're all equally dangerous.
Oh.
And how can we know that? Is there a scale of dangerousness?
Was the banana cigarette New York scale that they generally use.
That's the scale.
Is it about toxins that you absorb or take in?
Well, it is a professor from Stanford called Ronald Howard, as long as it's not the guy who was in Happy Days and directed Apollo 13. It was in 1968 he developed the micromort. And a micromort is a 1 in a million chance of death. So the higher the risk, the more micromorts, obviously. So if 1 million outings on a hang glider result in 8 deaths, then there's a fatal risk of 8 micromorts attached to hang gliding.
So how many micromorts in a banana?
Well, I'll tell you. If you take the normal background risk in the UK, it's actually 41.6 micromorts. So the chances of sudden death in Britain from leading a normal life are about 4 in 100,000.
What, 4 people die unexpectedly from eating a banana?
No, just that's background. This is just background. We're not come to the bananas
Oh,
yet.
sorry, I'm overexcited.
Yeah. Your ordinary risk
Yes.
of dying suddenly is 4 in 100,000.
I've got it now.
Right, but activities that raise the level of risk. Have you done suddenly?
I died suddenly.
There you are. Activities that raise the level of risk from 41.6 micromorts, which is the average risk we all share, by 1 micromort alone are smoking 1.4 cigarettes yourself, living for 2 months with someone else who smokes, half a litre of wine.
Not doing a wee when you really need one.
1,000 bananas is actually because they're radioactivity. They do contain a lot of potassium. They are faintly radioactive.
Wow.
Very faintly. 40 tablespoons of peanut butter.
So, I'm sorry, I'm still on the bananas. You have to... You have to eat 1,000 bananas.
If you ate 1,000 bananas, not necessarily all
No.
at once, because that would kill you straight away.
Yes.
Yes. The point is, For every 1,000 bananas you eat,
Yes.
your chances of sudden death increase by 1 micromort.
What does it matter with scientists? Who? Who is going to eat 1,000 bananas? Why would you eat
Over your
this
lifetime.
Yeah, you don't
Over
know,
your
maybe-
lifetime, I've eaten 1,000 bananas.
Yeah, I reckon about
So should you be counting how many bananas you might eat? No.
It's only 1 micromort. It's a 1 in a million chance.
But how does the 1,000th banana kill
Because of the
you?
level of radioactivity. Oh, God. For every 1,000 you eat, you already got 41.6 micromorts.
I feel
which is
unwell.
I'll give you a book to read afterwards.
Thank
You can
you,
explain
John.
it.
Go
It
to New
takes
York,
too
have
long.
a cigarette with a glass of wine and a banana split.
Fuck you, world!
All of these increase they're such tiny margins. That's all they're.
I'm going down.
My headmistress at boarding school was always in a terrible panic about fruit.
Fruit.
Fruit, yes, she found that... She spent hours teaching us how to eat a banana correctly, and because of the manners. And I remember her
We
saying...
mustn't make the cheeks spoil. And you don't do this either. So she didn't like. She taught you how
No,
to
she
eat
was
a
very
banana.
worried, and I remember saying, because she'd spent a long time on bananas, and I said, well, how do you eat an orange? And she looked over the top of her glasses and said, no young woman should ever embark upon an orange.
Wise words. Scuba diving adds 5 micromorts to background levels. Taking heroin adds 30. A night in hospital adds 75. Just one night in hospital.
Wow.
But giving birth raises the risk to 80 micromorts. So it's double the background.
So if you're feeling ill, you're better off taking a bit of heroin than going to the
then
hospital.
going to the
You know that a night in hospital can be rather perilous. Obviously.
I heard a myth. Is it a myth that heroin is the only thing in the world that cures a cold? I heard it's like a myth.
I think the guy under
It's probably a guy trying to sell me some heroin. Yeah,
in Manchester.
like, it cures a cold. mate.
Get your cold, this little lad.
Do you know the Irish cure for a cold? My dad always used to say, what you do is you get into bed with a hat and a bottle of whiskey, and you put the hat on the end left bedpost, and then you drink until you can see it on the right.
Absolutely superb. There's one man who's in micromortis we don't know, is Yasuhiro Kubo. And he's a Japanese skydiver who jumps out of a plane without a parachute and then collects it from a partner on the way down. And we don't know his micromort because he's still alive. And it may be that he'll do 4,000 jumps and then die.
Be a good dumb show. You could see if you see them falling, and then he goes over to the boat against the parachute, and you see the bloke go,
I knew there was something. Oh, that is so distressing. Anyway. Now, what can we do to stop the killer robots?
Oh.
Well, you may say that's
Go
a silly
upstairs.
robot. Go upstairs. The Daleks have shown that doesn't work now. They can hover.
"This is a Robot Wars one."
Yes, Robot Wars.
It's about legislation, isn't it? Are they not trying to legislate against these?
Well, they are indeed. There's a global campaign led by a group of academics and Nobel Peace Prize winners who see a very real threat, and they're not wrong. Look at the development of drones in the American army. Robotic killing machines are very close indeed, and yet...
But the thing about the drone is that the drone has a human, as it were, in the loop.
Yeah.
But I think the thing with the idea with the killer robots is that there's no human
That's the idea.
in the loop.
Yeah, it's Dr. Noel Sharkey, Professor of Computer Science at Sheffield, who was in fact the consultant on and appeared on Robot Wars, which you remember that 90s TV show.
Great.
Did you have such a thing in South African television?
I think we might have gotten your Robot Wars. We had none, so...
I was very astonished when I first went to South Africa, and I was in Cape Town asking for directions, and they said, yeah, turn right at the third robot.
Oh yeah, we call...
I said, what?
We call them robots. We call the traffic lights
Traffic lights.
robots.
They're called robots.
We have a very low bar. Just for these are the same guys who invented apartheid. So I mean, if you look at the, they were impressed. They were impressed.
Or even more shocking was when I was filming that, and it was incredibly hot, and someone asked me if I wanted some ice cream. I said, do you want some ice cream? And I realised they were saying ice cream, of course.
Chocolate ice cream.
Chocolate ice cream. Oh, dear.
You just always go that bit too far.
Yes, he does, doesn't he? I know. That's
Presumably, the robots they're not covered by the Geneva Convention in any way.
the problem. They're not regulated, as I say. That is the real issue.
Do you not think we're slowly just going towards a video game? That's what we're building towards.
Trevor,
no?
guess who the US Army is recruiting right
Yeah,
as we
the
speak?
guys who play. If you play video games,
Yeah.
they say you're at least 50% better than just an average recruit off the
They're
streets.
the ones they're hiring for.
But what I'm saying is, if we get to a point where we're fighting
Yeah.
the things only on video games,
Farting,
that could be,
you said it.
yeah. But that's what you do in war. You can't control yourself, and you just... This is... I don't know how you fight, Stephen, but that's how we...
Surely the really civil thing would be to not have fighting at all. You have a game of
That's just
Twister.
ridiculous. How do you settle things?
So Vladimir Putin and yes, or Risk, even, or Scrabble.
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely game.
Vladimir Putin versus Obama at
Obama
Scrabble
at
would
Twister.
be quite well. Anyway, killer robots don't exist yet, but now might be a good time to make sure they never do. So, here are some killers, but what do they prey on? I'll perhaps give you a clue, if you don't know its name.
Seafood, that's a
Seal.
seal.
It is, it's called the crab-eater seal.
It is
So the
fish.
Yes?
Crab. Just get it out of the way. Just so we can all move on. I know what the real answer is.
If we show you its teeth more close up, you might get a sense of it. It's pretty...
Ooh.
That's weird. Why would you have teeth like that?
To be on a show like this.
It's the sieve. It's like a baleen plate in a whale. It sieves out all the bigger things, so it actually just has, like a whale, krill.
Krill.
Krill. Yeah, just eats krill. And our next contender is...
Oh, I say.
Yes, that's called the Bagheera Kipling-eye spider. Does that ring a bell?
They kill tigers, don't they?
Well, Bagha is the Hindi for tiger, and Bagheera is...
The Jungle Book.
Is in the Jungle Book, and
Is
it's a
it a
panther.
panther?
Panther. And hence the Kipling eye, so for some reason it's named after Rudyard Kipling.
It
and
eats
it's called
bagel
Bagheera.
tarts. Lemon slices. Oh, the bagel tart. I could eat 5 of them, easy. Only do 5 in a pack. You know what I'm saying?
You have probably no idea what we're talking about, Paul Trevor.
They've surely got Kipling cakes in South Africa.
No, we don't.
No?
No.
They're exceedingly good.
But anyway,
I think the spider looks like he's going to be cute for the photograph.
he does as he's posing.
Hi.
Spiders are known to be feeders on what?
Flies.
Flies. They're known to be carnivorous. But this is the only vegetarian spider on Earth.
Well, no wonder he's cute.
Yeah, exactly. They actually go out of their way to avoid rather nasty-looking ants and hide around corners until they can get to their staple food, which is the buds of acacia trees.
Oh.
Acacia
They're
are
the
very
laughing
thorny.
stock of the spider community. Call yourself a spider, you're a disgrace.
Yes. They occasionally, to be fair, will eat meat. It's a bit like, you know, the spectacled bear.
If they've
will
had a
be
drink.
known to eat, you know...
Have a kebab on the way home.
They can't resist it. Would you like
Ow!
Let's have a
would you
kebab.
like to see a great tit? Would you like to see a great tit?
Always.
There you go. There's a great tit.
Oh, great. That's a good picture.
It's a lovely
lovely
picture of a
picture.
great tit, isn't it? They mostly eat...
Insects.
Yes, caterpillars in particular. They're very fond of a good juicy caterpillar, which is, of course, part of the cycle of an insect. And in Hungary, something very astonishing has been observed with great tits.
They eat goulash.
They have been observed, possibly because of lack of caterpillars in Hungary.
Eating chips.
No, they've been rather gross, actually. They've been eating roosting bats. They've been eating the entire innards and brains and scooping out every part of a sleeping bat, which is really quite...
That's a lovely story.
It's, isn't it? It's quite a move for a great tit. And we come finally to this chap.
Oh.
Piranha.
Is that
It looks like a piranha.
Oh.
It's a distant relative, though he lives in a completely different part of the world. Lives in Papua New Guinea. And is known as a pacu fish, but has a nickname which might give you a hint. The teeth it has designed to deal with its main food source, which is seeds and nuts, which fall down from trees above, which quite a lot of fish do. But if you happen to be swimming naked, as many a Papua New Guinean might, it fully deserves its nickname, the ball cutter fish. There are at least 2 recorded examples of people dying from castration. From
Oh,
these,
does
because of
that count as a background mort?
Yes, it's definitely a
Presumably you can
micromort.
tell as the screams get higher and higher.
Until they're beyond the range of human hearing. So they're pretty nasty.
Wow.
But what's the worst thing a swan can do to you?
Now, you can famously break a child's arm.
Yes.
No, there's no recorded example ever. They have hollow bones, and the chances are they would break their own wings if they attempted to swipe hard on a human
Oh,
bone.
I've been cautious of them. Ever since primary school.
They're aggressive. They'll chase after you, and I dare say, if anyone rings in and says, I know someone who claims their arm was broken, the chances are almost certain.
The school liar.
Well, not that they're with the school line.
Well, you're running away and fell.
They might want to fall on
Yeah,
over.
broke your arm.
Exactly.
Where's that place where the swan goes and rings a bell?
Fairyland.
No.
Somebody shouting in the audience saying,
Wells, isn't it?
Wells in Somerset.
In Wells and Somerset, there's a bell on the outside, and the swans have learnt to go and ring the bell, and then they get fed. They get fed.
That's marvellous. Little Pavlovian swans.
And if you don't feed them, they break your arm.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, you're absolutely wrong. Everyone else is marvellously right in all kinds of ways. So they are very aggressive. They can't break your arm, so they're... And now it's time for one of my knickknacks. Crikey, how did that get there?
What a marvellous outing for the word crikey.
Yes. I'm going to demonstrate to you how a chain reaction takes place. Imagine these are little atoms. And what I have is a series of mousetraps used for, obviously, killing mice. Fortunately, no mice will be harmed in this experiment. All you will see is the spectacular sight of random and explosive chain reaction caused by one atom touching another, which are all...
Ball number 16, the 8th appearance this year.
Yes. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. On that nuclear bombshell, we reach the final curtain. It's time for the scores. And how fascinating they are. Way out in front, as you might imagine, with her astonishing knowledge, is Sandy Toxic on 14 points. Points-wise, one of the greatest debuts of all time. Trevor Noah has +9. And in third place with -6, Jason Manford. Halloumi astonished in last place, but with a deeply encouraging -28, Alan Davis. Thank you. And it only remains for me to thank Trevor, Jason, Sandy and Alan. Good night.